Fun fact, parking like this almost cost me graduating from college. I only bring that up because I'm actually here on UofA campus right now to kill some time before I meet a friend for lunch. And I saw that and it brought back some memories. Because, well, I was about to graduate, 2 days away from completing classes, came back, had a ticket on my car saying I was parked too close to the line, as was every other car there, which is why we had to park. So I had to pay a $50 ticket in order not to be put on the do not graduate list. Good times. And poor little Charlie, he had his first I threw up at school incident today. We dropped him off, less than 8 minutes later, we get the phone call to come pick him up. But he's at home resting now. But I came over here to kill some time because I'm doing a project today. I'm going to build a display to show my comic book collection while I'm at Tucson Comic-Con. I just saw this as I was walking by, so it made me decide to start the video here. Look at all these people that are going to be there. You got Kevin Eastman, you got the actors from TMNT, The Van, Eric Estrada, Amberly Connors, and Sergeant Slaughter. And for whatever reason, I'll be there too. I'll be there with my day job working, but since they found out that I was a professional comic book writer, they wanted to display and showcase some of my works, and I thought I'd put on display my collection as well, which is going to be our project today. I'm going to build a stand to showcase a lot of my CGC slab books, as well as some of my raw books that might be of some interest. But that's all coming later. Right now, I'm going to have some lunch with a friend, but also kill some time here at the bookstore. And like most true UofA fans, I'm super excited to bring back the original logo. That's been our favorite. We all hated it when it went away. Well, this is actually what I wanted to see, but I just can't justify that price for them right now, especially since everything I wear now hurts my feet. But this will be my third pair of them. They release a new pair every year. I got the ones from the last 2 years, but I haven't got these ones yet. They are super comfortable, but lately every shoe's been hurting my feet. So I think I'm gonna have to pass right now. And it looks like we have a traveling exhibit down here. Let's take a look. One thing I do miss about going to school here is all the cool stuff they have on display, like many museums, many exhibits. And the reason I convinced my company to do this Tucson Comic-Con event is that word right there, a grassroots campaigning, getting back to the people and showing them what we're capable of. Really signifying the little things actually lead to big movements and progress. I mean, can't really argue with everything on display here that shows that mentality specifically. I was not expecting to see this. This is really cool. Going all the way back to 1789, working its way through grassroots campaigning with all the different trinkets and whatnot from every president all the way up until current. In fact, while I was going to school here, I was lucky enough to actually sit and hear President Obama speak. That was really awesome. He came to visit after a tragedy that happened here in Tucson, and I actually skipped work that day to come and actually hear a sitting president give a speech. One of the coolest moments of my life. And speaking of historical significance here at the University of Arizona, they have a really cool memorial here down in the Rotunda area below the Student Union, honoring those who went to the University of Arizona who also served during World War I and World War II. I don't recall if this was meant to, but it has the two chains. Obviously, the USS Arizona was famously sank at Hawaii on December 7th, 1941. And people probably don't realize it, but the entire Student Union was built and dedicated and designed and modeled after the USS Arizona, from bow to stern. And I always loved coming down here and hanging out when I was going to school here, because it was a nice quiet area. Oh, so you also have Korea and Vietnam. This has been added since last time I was here. So it's always a quiet area to come and do your studies and kind of just get away from the hubbub of the busy life of campus. But ever since COVID, the busy life of campus is not as busy as it once was. Always beautiful, always a good reminder. But now, let's go run those errands that we intended to come here to do in the first place. Of course, the UofA has lots of cool hidden architecture. In fact, this building here, where I took a lot of classes, is made to look like the head of a wildcat. And it all started with this, Old Main, the original campus from 1885. It's hard to believe that inside there was all the classes, where you lived, where you eat, where you did everything. And around this entire area was nothing but desert. And it's closed right now, but I really want to check this out. Still haven't been able to see it yet. It was created by Bob Elliott and his wife, former UofA basketball player, to commemorate African-American history here on campus. I've heard they have so many great exhibits, and I really want to check it out. Just never had the opportunity just yet. Time to grab stuff for that project, so we find ourselves at Home Depot. And by we, I mean me and my project foreman, Henry.
Hi.
So I'm going to be building a display for my comic books like I was talking about. So we're going to have here to get a few different things to get started. It's going to be a multi-day project, but I'm going to get started today. First thing I'm looking for is some wood screws and some lumber and some hinges. We're going to start off with the simplest part first. And nothing too crazy. These 3/4 screws right here should be plenty fine for what we're trying to get started with. And grabbing a couple hinges as well. I actually got the size wrong of the wood I was looking at when I was first doing them planning, so we're going to get these hinges instead. There's my little construction foreman. You got it? The display we're building is nothing too crazy. In fact, It should be just an afternoon build time for it, but they didn't have all the parts I needed here at Home Depot because I'm being very cheap with it since I'm paying for it. But what it's going to do, it's going to be a rack that holds up our CGC slab and non-slab books, and Henry got a dragon.
No, you mean Nightmare Catnap?
I mean a Nightmare Catnap. I don't know what that is. But we're going to get started. I'm going to show you what we're doing. It's really as simple as putting on the hinges, doing a couple of 30-degree cuts, maybe 45-degree cuts depending, and then putting up some shelving to hold the books up. And we're not going to use the shelving in the traditional sense, and I'll show you what I mean in a second. And the reason I decided to film this and show everyone how I did it, because when I first started looking at possible ways of displaying the books, they never actually showed the step-by-step on what to do. It's kind of like a secret they're all trying to keep to themselves. So I'm going to share that secret with you. But before we go any further, Henry wants to show you his toy.
Hi everybody. Look at this.
That is pretty cool. What is it called again?
A Nightmare Catnap.
A Nightmare Catnap?
Yeah, here's the bag. That's
the bag for it? I've never heard of these before. You've heard of them before? No, so they're new to you too? Show them the front of it. That's super cool. How many are there total? I know you. You love your checklists.
10.
There's 10? All right. Well, I guess we'll have to start thinking about it more. You just got to start earning them. Because Henry finally lost another tooth, so we earned one. Show him your missing tooth. Good job. Well, the other two that already started growing in, so it's not exactly missing. All right, guys. Next step. Let's start building our project. Henry, are you going to help me?
Wait.
Just got back to the house. Got the wood and everything right here. And I got some of my tools set up too to start working on this project. It's going to be pretty simple and it's a rudimentary design. I'm going to show you the tools first. I'm going to put together the first part of it. Then I'll show you what I'm thinking as far as the overall design goes. But let me show you the tools we're working with today. Because yes, I am a comic book nerd, but I'm also a fan of working with my hands. In fact, I used to have a ton of power tools in my garage, but unfortunately they were borrowed and never given back by a family member. That was like 8 years ago. I've given up at this point, but the tools I need, I still have, and let me show you. If you work with wood in any capacity, you have to have a speed square. This is the perfect tool for getting those angles and getting them quickly marked. Got my work gloves just in case. You got the stuff that we just picked up at Home Depot that you know now. Just some quick accessory tools, my drill bits and whatnot. This has actually been one of my favorite tools I picked up in the last couple of years. It's just a simple little power screwdriver, but I double it as a drill sometimes because for a handheld one, it is perfect. And the last tool we're going to use today is our trusty Ryobi little chop saw. For the sake of the video today, we got a couple pieces of pine here. Well, we actually got several pieces of pine. It was actually kind of a pain to find all of them that were as straight as possible. Even this one has a little bit of a bend to it, but for our purposes, it'll be fine. Essentially what we're making is two A-frame structures, like so, that I'm actually going to mount some wired shelves to display the comic books at the convention that we're going to pretty soon. The part of this that's going to be somewhat of a challenge is obviously when you have perfectly squared pieces like this, they're kind of not level. So once we get them mounted the way we want with the hinges, we're actually going to do either a 30 or 45 degree cut on the bottom to even them out so they get equal footing. And what I'm looking for is one of those, well, basically a piece in between to hold them in place. And then we got a little 1x2 here that we're going to chop down and put on the back to add as a support structure when it's all said and done. Like I said, this is going to be a multi-day project. Realistically, it's like an hour-long project, but I don't have all the pieces here that I need just yet. This was just me kind of testing if it works in theory. Shall we start measuring? When working with wood on any kind of project, one thing I like to do is make sure I have as accurate of measurements and cuts as possible. So I'm taping these two pieces together to make sure that they are perfectly level so I can measure the hinges to make sure they're lining up right. And then what I'll do before I drill, I'll put some tape up here too to not get any blowout. Let's check the hinges and see if these line up well. So I have them centered perfectly on here, and truth be told, there is some slight overhang on the hinges, but less than 2 centimeters. I'm not terribly concerned by that. All right, just make sure you got your areas marked. And just a couple really simple stainless steel hinge, nothing too crazy. There you go right there. Have our ends marked. Now we got our hand drill, and we're gonna make the holes. And we're gonna have to repeat this whole process one more time as soon as we're done. And like I said, technically this is just a electric screwdriver, but my drill bits fit perfectly in it, and this is actually what I use to install the lights all around the house. Although I really got to redo those because the ones I just used the adhesive on, since we've been over 105 lately, most of the ones that are just up with the adhesives have fallen off. The ones I screwed in are still holding on strong. I wish I had a workbench still. So right now I'm using the hood of my mother's car, so don't tell her. Only downside is it doesn't like to come out when you back it out, so sometimes you do have to manually turn it out once you're done. Always good to have safety goggles on. Can't find mine, so I'm using my Ray-Bans, but that works because at the same time, I am going to use, I dropped a screw. I'm going to use the glasses to record some POV video. All right. Okay, now that we have all of them in, let's tighten them down. Okay, and like I said, I'm fully aware that it hangs off a little bit. Hangs off a little more than I'd like, but it's going to work for our purposes. Moment of truth. Let's take off our painter's tape here. And painter's tape is key to a good thing. And look, we have the A-frame I wanted, but like I said, not as level as I thought it should be. So cool. That works for what we would like it to do, but we are going to chop those bottoms to make it a little bit more secure in the long run. The second batch, one's actually way more warped than I thought it was when I looked at it there at Home Depot, but it should still work. It's the bottom part that's a little janky, as they say, but for what I want to do, that doesn't really matter. Because don't get me wrong, this is a first attempt project. Like I said earlier, I'm only doing it because I couldn't find any good tutorials online of other people that have done it. So, when in doubt, dive in and try to figure it out yourself. That's what I do. But these aren't made to be a permanent solution at this point. But since I will be putting thousands of dollars worth of comic books on them, I want to make sure they do what I would like them to do and not run the risk of damaging my books. So we are going to make sure that it's working the way it's supposed to, at the very least. All right, let's measure and cut. You already saw this. This part's boring. I'll come back. See, that went quick. And this one turned out a little bit better than the first one. Nice. Sorry, I forgot to record the first pass through, but I got the second one here with my glasses. So what I did was, bottoms were a little uneven and not cut straight, so we just did 2 straight cuts on them to make them the same height and length. So now, they're a little bit shorter than originally, but that's okay. I didn't want them too tall to begin with. I think it's about where we're going to stop now. I do have to measure and anchor this part to the back somehow, but I want to make it where I can easily take it on and off. So we'll go from there when we can. But that's the start of it. Time to finish up the comic book display project, but I had to fire my original contractor. Henry decided he didn't want to be involved anymore. So I hired a new one, and she likes pink. We're getting down to the final pieces we need. I also grabbed a couple paint stir sticks to use as some shims. I'll explain more of that later. And now, washers. We're grabbing some shelving because when you put it vertical like this, it's much easier to display comic books and slabs on. The only catch is, what are you going to do with them afterwards? I'm actually going to use them as regular shelves in the house with L brackets once we're done. All right, I think we have everything we need. Now just time to find Dana and head out and finish the project. Now that I'm back home with the final pieces, I think my issue is going to be, am I going to be able to complete it all tonight? That's my goal, but I'm also not going to hold myself to that. I have to get my garage organized. I don't know what happened in here. I spent an entire day during my recovery fixing and organizing it. Now we got stuff everywhere again. Oh well, that's life. We're going to do this in a few easy steps, but first, let me get out the saw. First things first, we want to find the exact center of this piece. So let's do that right now. It should be about 6 feet long. And it's 72 on the money. So we'll make a spot there at 37 inches to have it even across the board. You guys remember when I said in the last video, the speed square is your best friend? This is what I'm talking about. And we're centered. Totally forgot to get new protective eyewear again. So sunglasses, here we are. So before I make any cuts, I always like to bring the blade down to make sure I'm hitting right where I want to, and it is a little off. So we're going to slide a little bit more this way. Perfect. Nice thing about something like this, it cuts through like butter. Safety tip, I never go anywhere near anything until the blade is completely stopped. And there we are. I know I'm doing this next part kind of funky, but there's a method to my madness. We marked our center point here on this flat line. Now we're going to drill a hole directly. We have the 2 pieces clamped together and we have a center line marked right here. We're going to drill a hole directly through both pieces. Reason being, this is where we're going to run a bolt to hook up our back supports. And we're going to do one on each side. This part might get boring, so let's go super speed. So generally speaking, I always like to do a smaller hole first just to make sure, then do a larger hole second. And that should do the trick. We are just going to widen it just a little bit more. I wish I still had a workbench, but you have to make do. I want you to make a straight line across there.
Where? Bottom, top.
Give me 1 second though. Thank you, honey.
You're welcome.
So I didn't record a whole lot because I would have said a lot of words that I can't put on the channel. And I forgot to turn it back on because I ran into a couple complications. There's a slight flaw in my design, but I can fix it easily with just one more piece of this. I had Dana come help me because I cannot hold my giant level and mark the places I need. So let's drill some holes. Luckily, this part doesn't have to be as precise as long as I'm in the middle of the board and roughly the same height, which I don't see why it wouldn't be at this case. And if I plan this part right, I'll have exactly enough pieces. And I don't plan on finishing this project tonight. I plan on at least getting it started where I can try it. Well, you probably saw that just fall. One thing I didn't count on, the screws holding the top parts in aren't that strong, but luckily I do have replacements for that. This was just kind of a placeholder until I figured out if this design worked. Here it is, with some tweaks needed, but it worked out like I really wanted. I need one more support beam down here, just on the front so to hold it in place, and I need to drop this down about 2 inches to make room for the actual slabs. And up here, I got to replace these screws in here because these are the original screws it came with, and well, they didn't really hold up. They were really thin and not that great to begin with. Essentially, it's cost me about $60 worth of parts. A majority of that coming from the larger pine pieces. I wanted more sturdy wood. And the shelves that were about $11 each. But these are going to work out exactly like I wanted. And believe it or not, I bought zip ties thinking just in case I need them. They're actually what's truly stabilizing this right now until I can get in that extra support beam across. But the only thing left to do is if I want to stain it and get it ready. I want to be able to break down a little bit easier, but that might not be directly in the cards. But all in all, this worked out like I wanted. I know I didn't record a lot of this, and my whole goal was to show you guys how to do this end to end, but we ran into a couple issues. I said some bad words. Luckily the camera wasn't running when I did it, and I dropped something on my foot. I have to go check that now to make sure my toe's okay, because well, don't really have a whole lot of feeling left in my feet, so I gotta make sure everything's fine. But all in all, this is exactly what I wanted, and it's actually really, I'm putting a lot of weight on there right now. I just gotta make sure we stabilize it from swaying back and forth, which is where the next piece is gonna come from. Maybe, yeah, stabilizing at the bottom here is what we need. But all in all, this turned out really well. I don't know if you guys saw that, remember that? That's a new Halloween decoration right there. I'm excited for that one, but that's, again, much later video. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I hope this was somewhat fun and educational. I know I didn't give you all the detail I wanted because I got into doing the task instead of showing you how to do the task. Well, until next time, tune in again to see how it actually turns out. Bye-bye, everybody.